Good morning. It's 5 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're at 64 degrees right now, headed to a sunny 85. Warm and sunny, by the way, through the weekend as well. Well, this marks day 3 of a government shutdown, and there's no sign that Republicans or Democrats feuding over passing a budget resolution will be solved today. In fact, President Trump has said he's meeting with Russ Gov't, the head of the Office of Management and Budget, to see which programs Gov't recommends to be cut. House Speaker Johnson saying he's not talking with Democratic leaders because, quote, he's nothing to negotiate. A claim that Democrats reject. ABC's John Fernandez on the Senate side of things.
The Senate returns to session later today, but Majority Leader John Thune says if Democrats don't fund the government by tonight, lawmakers will be sent home for the weekend, stretching the shutdown longer.
Yesterday, the White House moved to pause or cancel billions in funding for projects in blue states, ramping up pressure on Democrats. In Nashville, police are investigating a deadly shootout Wednesday night between a group of people wearing masks and others that left one of the masked people dead and injured innocent bystanders near the intersection of Sylvan and South 6th Streets. Two bystanders, a 23-year-old male driving a car nearby and a 55-year-old man, were injured. Residents say they're already on edge, and the violence makes it worse.
It's kind of bad, honestly. It adds to the stress levels that we have because you have your normal stressors of rent and everything else in this area, and then you turn around and you have to worry about, now we have shootings again. Who are we going to have to worry about going out at night?
Police seized 3 guns from the scene. One was an AR-style pistol. There were also 2 handguns. Market Numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Online at beaconcm.com. Here's Michelle Franzen.
Major market indexes set closing records despite an ongoing government shutdown. The Dow was up 79 points at the end of the day to reach a new high. The S&P gained 4, and the Nasdaq rose 89 points, hitting a new high. The government shutdown means the Bureau of Labor Statistics will not release fresh unemployment figures. Other economic data will remain on hold as investors and policymakers look for signs of which way the economy is heading. Berkshire Hathaway announcing it is buying Occidental Petroleum's chemical division, OxyChem, in a $9.7 billion deal. The deal, Berkshire Hathaway's first big acquisition since Allegheny Insurance in 2022, and is expected to be one of the last under longtime chief Warren Buffett. Electric vehicle maker Tesla reported a third-quarter increase in sales, likely fueled by consumers rushing to get the $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit before it expired on September 30th. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Stock futures all pointing up this morning, too. The Dow futures plus 144. NASDAQ futures gaining 75. We've got the S&P futures up by 20 points. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. There's a problem this morning in Glen Cliff on 24, the eastbound side between Briley Parkway South and Hickory Hollow Parkway. That's paving work, and only one lane is available to traffic at this point. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning, everyone. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am not Dan Mandis. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson. Dan has the day off. He'll be back on Tuesday. I'll be here today. I'll be here on Monday, filling in. So a little knocking the rust off, as it were, Jones. Trying to make sure that I still can
it's like
words.
Riding a bicycle. You'll be fine.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny how, you wonder, well, I haven't done this in a while, and I'm, can I still get in there and crank it out? And then the little red light comes on, and you just do it.
Yep. Boom.
Boom.
You're on.
Yeah, it's either sink or swim. So
Yeah. We're not going to let you sink.
Well, thank you. It's good to hear your voice this morning. I want to just say we're having a little problem with our camera this morning. We're working that out. So Super Talk TV will be up as soon as possible. There's a little technical glitch that we're trying to resolve, but that should be resolved in short order. In the meantime, Joan, as you know, government is still closed. Doesn't look like, I don't see anything happening in the near future that's going to change it. I think we're in it for a while. It's the way it feels.
Right. Yep.
I mean, you and I, having spent a lot of time in Washington over the years, we know, that these things generally, they don't generally last very long, but they can. And
the last one was 35 days.
Yeah.
That seemed like an eternity.
That was a long time.
Yeah.
And most of them are, most of them get avoided. And then when they do have them, generally you got to wait till somebody blinks. And the question is who's going to blink.
Right.
And I don't know. Either side seems to be willing to blink right now. You got to have 60 votes in the Senate to make this thing go forward. And until they get 60 votes, which requires a few more Democrats, we're not going to see anything happening. And what's really this all about? Well, I think the Secretary of the Treasury has it nailed down pretty good. This is all about Chuck Schumer being challenged, potentially, by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, that's really what this is about. He needs to show that he's tough against, the Trump administration. So is that what it's all about? Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury, thinks so.
Joe, let's just step back for a minute and look how we got here. Chuck Schumer did the right thing in the spring and led the Senate to a clean CR. What we've got here is the House they have passed a clean CR. The Republicans have the votes in the Senate, and he will not allow his members to come across. And what's changed since then is it's his poll numbers. So the president, Vice President Vance, Speaker Johnson, Leader Thune, they're not negotiating with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They're negotiating with Representative Ocasio-Cortez because she's nipping at his heels. And, the American people are being held hostage by Chuck Schumer's poll numbers. We're starting to see some of the very few moderate members left in the Democratic Party in the Senate drift toward wanting a solution. Chuck Schumer's blocking it. When I look at Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, straight out of Brooklyn, makes me glad that I left New York in 2020. And your question about the shutdown, this is a choice that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have made. And if they want to shut the government down, then there are ramifications.
You think they'd like to finally shrink the size of the federal government and use this as the opportunity, or are they hoping that we get things settled within the next couple of days, then that they don't have to do that.
Well, what they want is what's good for the American people and what's good for the country is a clean CR. The Democrats want to negotiate in the, like terrorists. They want to say, like, this is what we have to have, and if we don't get it, we're going to close down the government. So what President Trump, Vice President Vance, and the Republican leadership want is for the Democratic side to show a little leadership. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the president to use all the levers. Because, Joe, what they are asking for, they're asking for $1.5 trillion increase in spending. And let's just go back. That would be almost as big as the ill-fated IRA, which caused the worst inflation in half a century. So they want to put this inflationary impulse into President Trump's already strong economy. The economy is growing at 3.8%. We don't need 1.5 trillion pumped in. The Democrats seem to love inflation.
Well, there you go. That's the Secretary of the Treasury laying it all out. But really at its core, you can make the argument that if it were not for Schumer's weak position within the Democrat Party, that this would not be going on. But one way or the other, both sides seem to be, sort of, excuse me, hate it when that happens, are sort of buckling down on this, entrenching themselves in their positions. And Bernie Sanders, who is, leading a lot of the arguments against Trump right now, says, well, this is a horrible thing. This is as bad, this is what he says, this is as bad as the Civil War.
Precedentedly dangerous moment, maybe the worst crisis in America literally since the Civil War. You have a president who is acting unconstitutionally and illegally. Guess what? These projects have been appropriated.
Yes.
They were signed by a president. It is illegal to rescind them. And then basically to say to people in Vermont, in New York, in California, oh, you didn't vote for Donald Trump? Well, we're going to take away funding that was supposed to go to your state. Illegal, outrageous, unconstitutional.
Well, okay. So there you have that. What else is going on? Well, you are remarkably, on occasion, rare occasion, even seeing the organs of the left, the media organs of the left, the mainstream, lamestream media, are asking some tough questions occasionally of the Democrats. Now, this is about as tough as it gets. CNN's Jake Tapper speaking to Hakeem Jeffries.
What you support does bring back funding for emergency Medicaid to hospitals, some of which does pay for undocumented immigrants and people who don't have health insurance. And also there is this provision, and it's not about undocumented immigrants, it's about people with asylum seekers and people with temporary protected status, et cetera, but about their ability to get Medicaid. So they're non-citizens, they're not undocumented, they're not illegal. Why even include that in a bill knowing that they're going to seize right upon that and use that to message?
Well, what we're doing is fighting to protect the health care of the American people against the largest cut to Medicaid ever. 14 million American citizens are going to lose their health care as a result of what Republicans did.
You're talking about the subsidies again, but I'm talking about the non-citizens.
No, I'm talking about the Medicaid cuts. That document that you just showed me, that was the one big ugly bill. 14 million Americans are going to lose access to health care. Their hospitals, their nursing homes, their community-based health clinics are closing because of what the Republicans have done.
Well, I think that's alarmist, and I'm not sure it's completely accurate. I think it is true that what they're concerned about on the Republican side of the equation is, why are we paying for the health care of people who are in this country illegally? Why are we paying for health care for people who are not American citizens? I don't know. I sort of don't have a problem going down this path. I think our position is strong. I think our position is right. I think our position resonates with the American people. I think we're in sync with mainstream political thought. Maybe not all of political thought, but mainstream political thought. And it looks like we're in this thing for a while. And how does that impact you? How does that affect your life? I don't know. Hasn't impacted my life one iota. So until it gets to be difficult for people on some level, until the pressure builds and builds and builds, and the American people say enough of this nonsense, get busy and do your job, looks like we're going to continue this. Time for a look at what's going on with our weather and traffic. It is 15 past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Yeah, they still haven't fully picked up that paving work on 24 eastbound side between Briley Parkway and Haywood Lane. Watch yourself traveling through that area this morning. Otherwise, the major roadways are looking okay. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, we're looking for a nice day on tap today. We're getting in, by the way, a lot of activity, Joan, here in bucolic Watertown, where I'm broadcasting from this morning.
What kind of activity?
Well, we're getting ready for the fall mile-long yard sale.
Oh, nice.
And looks like the weather's going to be nice. It's going to be a great event. If you like to go and look through people's junk and buy stuff, bring your pickup truck and come on. It'll be Saturday all day.
Love that.
It's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun. All right, we're talking a little bit about the government shutdown. What's going to happen there? Well, it looks like we may be seeing this as an opportunity for the Trump administration to do what it really wants to do, which is trim the size of government. If you've ever listened to me, you know that I have sort of a long-running opinion about this. I think I'm sort of, I believe it's Jeffersonian in the matter. I believe that government which governs best is that which governs least. And as long as that's the case, I think we're probably better with a smaller government. So I don't have a problem with this. Listen to what we heard from Caroline Leavitt yesterday. From the Epoch Times, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters that the number of federal employees who are being laid off amid the government shutdown will be in the thousands. That's something the Office of Management and Budget and the entire team at the White House here, again, is unfortunately having to work through today. If there were no government shutdown, these discussions, these conversations, these meetings would not be happening. See, this is classic Trump. This is absolutely classic Trump. Take a lemon and make lemonade. I mean, see, we can't come to terms and you want to shut down the government and we've got this, that's fine. We'll just use this as an opportunity to trim the size of government and get rid of people permanently. Done. Out of here. And the Trump administration is playing it smart. I'll give you a little example. The only thing that's on the horizon that could potentially even have a modicum of impact on my life, and I suspect on many, is if you wanted to go to a national park. And I'm getting ready to take a trip. I'm going to load up the van and I'm going to head out and take a trip here in a few days. And I had planned to stay at a campsite in a national park. So I'm looking yesterday, and do I still have it? Do I still have a reservation, and will it be honored, and can I get in one night out of this trip that I'm taking? And there's a pretty incredible statement on the website, one that like I've never seen before. And it basically says the radical left, you actually use the term, the radical left has shut down the government, and therefore, we can't honor this reservation at this particular moment. Please stay tuned. We'll give you new details as they become available. But they actually go out there, and on the website of the government, it lays in a very political way who's responsible for this. I think that's not going to sit well with the American people. I think eventually they're going to tire of this matter. And I have a feeling that they're not all that concerned if the government remains closed. I have some sympathy. Don't get me wrong. I have some sympathy for the people who work for the government and, them not knowing a little bit about when their checks are going to get paid. But they will get paid unless they're reduced in rank and they, or they're let go. But okay, Smaller government, good. Everybody's going to be made whole in the long term. Vast majority of people made long. So what's the problem? Is this a matter over which we should have a standoff? I'm okay with it for now. It's got to be resolved, and you would think that the Democrats would come to their senses about all this, but I'm okay with it for now. Here's another one of these stories that talks about how the cuts are going to take effect. Donald Trump on Thursday, that was yesterday, said Democrats have given him an unprecedented opportunity to slash federal agencies, signaling plans to harm his political opponents during the government shutdown, while blaming them for causing it. This according to CNBC. Trump's warning came a day after his administration froze about $18 billion for two major infrastructure projects in New York City and canceled roughly $8 billion more for climate-related projects in Democrat-leaning states. There you go. The top Democrats leading in the shutdown fight, Senator Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, both represent what? Of course, New York. So Trump's making it personal. Both of the funding halts were announced by Russell Vought, the director of the White House Office of Management and Budget, not by the departments that have oversight of the projects, which says to me Trump has given the White House Office of Management and Budget all the authority they need to make these cuts. Trump said he will meet with Vought to determine which of the many Democrat agencies, which are a political scam, most of which are a political scam, according to this story, he recommends be cut. The two men will also weigh whether or not those cuts will be temporary or permanent, Trump wrote on Truth Social. I can't believe the radical left Democrats gave me this unprecedented opportunity. So there you go. I mean, he's sharpening his little red pencil. And they're going to go after this in a line-item way and look at some of the crazy stuff that Democrats have funded over the years and bring some common sense to it. Look, I know that the Democrats, are trying to find things to resist. They're going to resist anything that Trump does. But time and time and time again, that has not worked out well for them. They will go against something simply because Trump's name is somehow associated with it. But this is make no doubt about it. This is the Schumer shutdown. And in a few minutes, I'm gonna play a little clip of Chuck Schumer from way back. Oh, we go way back in time on the Wayback Time Machine to 1996, where he's funny. He had a very different opinion about this particular matter. Right now, it's 23 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock.
Up ahead, we'll take a look at the economic impact of a long government shutdown. And a woman is recovering in the hospital after being violently kicked by a stranger in downtown Nashville. Those stories here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
And Mandis today, and good to have you here on the Nashville Morning News. This is a show I used to do for a while, and then I moved over to afternoons, and then I retired. But they keep tracking me back. That's okay, though. I'm having a good time. Chuck Schumer wasn't always against this thing that he's against today that's causing the government shutdown. Listen to what he said on the floor of the United States Senate back in 1996. And it sounds a little bit like this.
This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Fraud.
And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
The gentleman's time has expired.
What's the old saying? If it weren't for double standards, Democrats would have no standards at all. 5:30 now on Super Talk.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories, and there's concern about whether the U.S. economy can sustain a long shutdown. It's an issue being talked about here on the third day of our current government shutdown. ABC's Elizabeth Schultze.
Kind of the best example that we have is the 2018 shutdown.
All right, so you got me, right?
Under President Trump at the time. That lasted 35 days, so it actually stretched into 2019. And what we saw from that was an $11 billion hit to GDP. In other words, the overall output in the economy was $11 billion less during that time than it would have been.
The Trump administration's also weighing layoffs of federal workers, which White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said yesterday are likely going to be in the thousands. We'll learn more about that later today. A 64-year-old woman is dead. Another person has been injured after they were hit by a WeGo bus while crossing the road. Channel 4's Alexandria Adams.
Police tell us that Patricia Owens and Jeffrey Hawley were crossing Dickerson Pike near Ewing Drive Wednesday night this week, and the bus driver swerved to try to avoid hitting them. Owens died at the hospital from her injuries. We know that Hawley was hit by the side mirror and is expected to be okay.
WeGo says no one on the bus was hurt. The company's cooperating with the police investigation. And downtown Nashville, a 70-year-old woman crossing the street was knocked to the ground and left unconscious. Now, this happened on Tuesday night as that woman crossed Commerce Street at 4th Avenue. A man approached her, jumped in the air, and kicked the woman in the chest. Now, the woman's neighbors said she suffered a broken hip and broken arm.
This could happen to anybody at all, anywhere at all. And it's intimidating, it's uncomfortable, and it makes you wonder, is this a good place to live?
Police have arrested a man named Pablo Arias. They were able to identify him because he left his cell phone at the scene. He's been charged with felony elder abuse and public intoxication. That is the latest news. Traffic's next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Okay, got a crash in Antioch on the eastbound side of 24. It's at Harding Place. And in Providence, crash involving a WeGo bus. There are injuries here at Haywood Lane and Nolensville Pike. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"37 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. You're listening to Nashville's Morning News with Dan Mandis, and I am decidedly not Dan Mandis. He's taking a day off. This is Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in today. I'll be filling in on Monday. Dan will be back on Tuesday, and we are glad to have you here. We have, I am told reliably, resolved our camera issues. So there you have it.
I can see you.
You can see me?
I can.
Yeah, you can see my studio's a little messed up right now. A little dirty. I mean, I got too much junk laying around. I got to get it straightened out. So
you have all the time in the world to do that, Brian.
You would be surprised how little time I have. Everybody told me, when you retire, you can do what you want to do. I'm busier now than I was before. I have more things going on and more things happening, and a list. Well, there's always the sort of important honey-do lists that get, dropped every day.
And you do those first.
Yeah, I'm doing those. And I'm, people say, well, how do you like retirement? It's fine. It is different than I expected. There are times where I see something that's going on and I just sort of regret that I'm not able to get on the air and pontificate. So my bulldog ends up getting, most of my great lectures these days. But, I get a list every morning from the missus of things that need to be accomplished. And that's important. Got to keep, happy wife, happy life. And so I find myself doing a lot of that, but doing things in the community and just going hither, thither, and yon. People are keeping me busy, and I'm enjoying it. I want to spend this half hour talking a little bit about some of the things that are going on that catch my attention on a state or local level. And I think you're going to find some of this. I'm going to start with what I think is probably one of the biggest stories, and that is in the state of Tennessee right now. As you know, the federal government is sending in a bunch of resources to the city of Memphis, because Memphis is a hellhole. It's a crime-ridden community. Crime is out of control, the most dangerous community in America right now, statistically. And so they're sending in some help. With the approval of the governor and others. I don't know how into it the city of Memphis is, but one way or the other, it's happening. And Stephen Miller and a bunch of other people who are involved in trying to support this attempt to try to clean up Memphis went there and gave a speech. Listen to what Stephen Miller told local police at roll call.
To the Memphis Police Department, to the officers that I see sitting in front of me, we are about to provide you with a level of support you cannot even imagine. This isn't just a task force. This is a all of government unlimited support operation. ATF, DEA, FBI, ICE, Department of War, every resource we have. And they're not going to be sitting behind a desk at a keyboard. We are sending in real cops with guns and badges to go out with you on the street every single night making arrests. These are people who have taken down drug cartels, kingpins, the worst criminal offenders in the United States, standing with you shoulder to shoulder to shoulder. All we ask from you is to show up at roll call every single night with your brothers and sisters in the federal government and to go out and get the criminals off the street. And if you do that, I pledge to you, we will liberate this city from the criminal element that has plagued it for generations. This is not just a strategy shift. This is an attitude shift. We are not going to live in an environment anywhere where there is a street that belongs to a criminal, where there is a neighborhood that belongs to a gang, where there is any physical space anywhere that belongs to anyone other than the law-abiding citizens and families of Memphis. The idea that there is a square inch of block in this city where a citizen doesn't feel safe is unacceptable. This is Memphis. This is the United States of America, and all that bullshit is done. It's over. It's finished.
I'm sorry. We let one slip through there, didn't we? I hope we got that with the red button, but if we've not, I apologize for the salty language.
You know, the gangbangers that you deal with, they think that they're ruthless. They have no idea how ruthless we are. They think they're tough. They have no idea how tough we are. They think that they're hardcore. We are so much more hardcore than they are. And we have the entire weight of the United States government behind us. What do they have? They have nothing behind them. So we are going to win. They are going to lose. We are going to rescue Memphis, and it will not only be safer than ever before, but businesses and investment are going to pour in, and Memphis will be richer than ever before because President Trump has decided this is a priority, and when President Trump makes a decision, this team behind me today executes. Thank you, and God bless.
You know what? I don't know about you, but if I was at that roll call, I'd be ready to go out there and get some stuff done. That would be exciting. See, I think that the problem, first of all, what is the most important thing that government does? I mean, we pay our taxes and we give our government money. We render unto Caesar the things that belong to Caesar. and in return, what we really want most of all is a feeling of safety. To know that, when you call 911, the red and blue lights are going to show up. To know that, when you really need the backup of a police officer, that they're going to be there. To know that your police department is going out in the community and on a daily basis doing everything it can do to curtail crime and or evil. I mean, that's what they do. They're like superheroes. They go out and they fight crime and or evil. And that's what you want. That's job number one when you are in government. Public safety. I mean, it's not too much to ask for a populace to feel safe when they walk the streets of their community. And if for some reason you can't do that, then you got a problem. And that is a problem in Memphis. I think it's a larger problem in Davidson County than we probably know. I think we've got a lot of crime here. I mean, we've got serious crime issues in the blue cities in the state of Tennessee. By the way, the other day I was talking to Dan Mandis on my Wilson Wednesday hit. We were talking about the fact that the city of Nashville won't do what it needs to do to put the license plate readers in place. Now, you may have a different opinion about the license plate readers than I do, but I'll tell you this, I think they can be used very effectively. Just look at I think, one of the model programs in the country and how you use this effectively to fight crime, to get, people who are criminals off the street is Mount Juliet. They've done a great job. And they have put in protections to make sure that the system is not abused. I guess any system can be abused, but I mean, they seem to, apparently it's a firing offense. If you misuse this system, you're gone. And they take it very seriously. But as the end result, if somebody moseys into Wilson County with a license plate connected to a crime, they're going to get stopped, and they're going to go to jail. So I think that's what needs to happen in Nashville as well. Nashville, they keep saying, I mean, the police keep saying, we need LPRs. We can work with the community to make sure that they're not abused, as they have in other communities very effectively. But I tell you, the police chiefs in the counties that surround Davidson County want them to do it. The police themselves are wanting them to do it, and they won't do it. Again, I would ask the people who are in charge of the communities, to Memphis and Nashville, this question. Are you doing everything that you need to be doing to keep the people safe? Are you focused on job one? No, we're not focused on job one. Here's what the council, the Metro Council, is focused on. This is from the Tennessee Star. The Metro Nashville Council is scheduled to vote at next week's meeting on a resolution condemning all acts of the United States government and the State of Israel that contribute to a continuation of the genocide of the Palestinian people. This is what they're focused on. Give me a break. The resolution filed on Tuesday is sponsored by Council Member Jenny Welch, representing District 16. If passed, the Metro Council will be taking an official stance concerning the ongoing conflict involving Israel and Hamas in Gaza, specifically denouncing actions taken by both the U.S. and Israel in that resolution and characterizing as contributing what it describes as genocide of the Palestinian people. This is what they're focused on. Oh, yes. And believe me, I am certain that that in Gaza, they will be, so focused on, and it will have such an impact on that situation if they take up this matter and pass it. Look, I used to have when I was a kid, I went to church, and the pastor used to say, we don't call the deacons together unless we have something for the deacons to discuss. Real, serious matters. Because if you just have a regular meeting of the deacons, before long, the conversation turns to the temperature in the sanctuary. And we need to turn up the heat or turn up the air conditioning, one or the other. That's what it'll turn into. Because if you have a meeting and you're not focused on the right things, you're just spinning your wheels, you're wasting your time, you're looking at things that are not important. And that's what the Metro Nashville Council is doing. Focused on the situation in Gaza when they can't even get their own backyard in order. This community is not in order. It is not. This is what they're focused on. This is what they're focused on right now. Coming up in a few moments, news about what happened to Cracker Barrel and how they continue to try to recoup from all of the problems that they faced when they tried to change the logo and change the look of the store and headed up by a person who's all about DEI. What are they doing now? They're making more changes. We'll talk about it. 50 minutes past the hour.
tell you what to expect today in Washington regarding the government shutdown. Also, turns out no one at the Des Moines, Iowa School Board followed up on the claims made by the superintendent before they hired him. Stick around for that and more at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, that story
it's crazy,
out of
isn't it?
Iowa is just the most bizarre thing I can possibly imagine. I mean, my goodness, how in the world did this happen? This is a man who was in charge of the schools in Des Moines, if you don't know the story. And turns out he's an illegal immigrant. He's got a criminal record, was arrested carrying a gun, even though he's a felon, apparently. But they never checked the guy. They never checked his background when they made him the superintendent of schools. Or if they did an incomplete background check.
Someone's head needs to roll for this one.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, I think the person who is in charge of that school board wants to be, I think, a senator in the state of Iowa. So she's ultimately responsible. I mean, I'm sorry if you're the person in charge of the school board and the school board hire. That's the most important thing you do as a school board is hire your superintendent. There's nothing higher on the priority list than making sure that your superintendent is somebody who can lead the school system in an effective way. So you have to question the judgment of the school board and the people who are in charge. So I mean that's a bizarre one. That's a bizarre one. I was talking a moment ago before I got off on that tangent about how things are not good in Nashville, not good in Memphis with regard to crime, and how that we are not focused on the right things. But we should also say that, when things are moving in a positive direction, we should also note that, right? Don't want to be always, bashing on people when maybe, just maybe, a few things might be going in the right direction. From Nashville, this is WTVF, Channel 5. Nashville's agencies work to fix out a balanced bond system after deadly failures. Well, thank goodness. The criminal justice system's scales of justice hang high above the Davidson County Courthouse, symbolizing fairness and thoughtful consideration. But according to Metro Police Chief John Drake, I think that's out of balance. The issue of bond has become a critical pain point in Nashville, with dangerous individuals sometimes returning to the streets while awaiting trial. The complicated process must balance a person's presumption of innocence with their criminal history and public safety concerns. In some cases, lives have been lost. Now, local agencies are implementing changes designed to make the community safer through better coordination and accountability. So there you go. I mean, you got to give them a pat on the back when things are moving in the right direction. Get this bail system straightened out. In other words, when I talk to police officers, and believe me, over the years, I've become friends with a lot of police officers who listen to this radio station. They listen to it religiously. They are good and loyal listeners of this station. And they reach out to us and they talk to us. And every police officer that I talk to says the same thing. We go out, we get our job done, we work it out, we arrest people, we bring them in, we put them in jail, and in 20 minutes they're out on the streets. Doesn't mean anything. You take criminal or potentially violent people off the streets, and the judges give them some or no bail, a small amount or no bail, and they're back on the streets. You haven't really solved the problem. The dangerous and criminal element is returned to the streets in regular order. I mean, so if you want to get people in your community to be safe, again, what you got to do? You got to crack down and make sure that when they go to jail, they stay there until their process has been worked out. The violent and the dangerous people. So they're trying to work on that. I'm glad to hear that. Cracker Barrel, very quickly. I just got a moment or two in this hour. I want to get this in. Cracker Barrel, which, I drive past on a regular basis in Lebanon, the Cracker Barrel headquarters. World headquarters of Cracker Barrel is right there in Lebanon. And they've gone through it, haven't they? Cracker Barrel, we hear from Fox Business, is ending its partnership with Profit. This is the consulting firm behind its failed effort to rebrand its restaurants. The chain faced intense backlash after unveiling a new logo and a redesigned stores that longtime fans said stripped away what they loved most about the brand. There you go. So they are getting rid of the company that gave them all of this advice. I wonder if the CEO will survive. 59 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis.
Well, hello there. It is 6 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We're down to 63 now, fair skies, and we're headed up to 86 for a high today in the sunshine. Looks like we're going to have sunny skies all weekend long. The Senate back in session today. There are no signs, however, that the federal government shutdown is any closer to ending. Senate Majority Leader John Thune saying that if Democrats don't fund the government today, he's sending lawmakers home for the weekend. There's news about the Des Moines, Iowa school superintendent who was detained by ICE last week and is now facing federal charges. Ian Roberts is in the country illegally, and ABC's Alex Perez says that the school board was duped into believing that he held a doctorate.
In a statement, the Des Moines School Board saying they are a victim of deception, but Roberts' attorney asking the public to withhold judgment.
This is a very complex case. Take it a step at a time.
ICE officials say Roberts entered the U.S. in 1999 on a student visa and was given a final order of removal in May of 2024. Authorities say he tried to evade arrest and was in possession of multiple firearms.
Turns out also he didn't have a doctorate from Morgan State University, as he said. He never attended MIT, as he had claimed, and he never received a Principal of the Year award from George Washington University. Market Numbers Report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Gains posted by heavyweight tech companies NVIDIA and Apple drove modest gains for the broader market Thursday. The Dow Jones rose 79 points to close at 46,519. The Nasdaq Composite and S&P crept higher into record territory. Also on the rise, Bitcoin. The world's most popular cryptocurrency climbed past 121,000 yesterday to start the fourth quarter. It was approaching its all-time high of 124,000. Wall Street's investors will be missing a key piece of inflation data today. The monthly jobs report, which is typically released on the first Friday of every month, will be delayed as a result of the ongoing government shutdown. Federal investigators want to know why two Amazon Prime air delivery drones crashed into a construction crane west of Phoenix this week. Nobody was hurt, but the retailer has paused drone deliveries in that area while it tries to figure out what went wrong. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Stock futures on the rise with the Dow futures up 112, NASDAQ futures gaining 61. The S&P futures are plus 15. That's the latest news. We've got your traffic and weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Yeah, still pretty slow on eastbound 24 this morning for a crash in Antioch. It's right at Hickory Hollow Parkway, and 2 right lanes are now blocked off by it. Providence, you've got an accident at Haywood Lane and Nolensville Pike. That one involves a WeGo bus in the south side on 40 westbound side before Elm Hill Pike overpass. Watch for a crash on the right shoulder. And also this morning, if you're traveling eastbound 24 in Antioch at Harding Place, that's another accident that takes out the left shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning, everyone. 6 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock, hour number 2 of Nashville's Morning News on this Friday, the 3rd day of October. I'm Brian Wilson, filling in for Dan Mandis, and we're glad to have you here on Super Talk 99.7 as we try to get you through the end of the week and into your weekend. As I mentioned before, we're getting very excited because here in Watertown, we got our big fall mile-long yard sale. It's got to be a big old deal. Got to be music and all kinds of fun stuff. That's going to be great. Looking forward to that. I probably need to spend some time cleaning out my studio and go down there and sell some of this stuff I got in the background. Too much stuff. Anyway, good time if you want to come on by. We're talking a lot of things going on in the world. If you're just waking up and turning on the news and you want to know, yes, the government is still closed. Has it really impacted your life? I mean, honestly? I can't find a thing. Well, there's one thing that might cause me a problem, and that is that I'm trying to, take my camper to a national park in a few days, and I don't know that that's going to work out. Okay, if that's the extent of the damage that's done to my life by shutting down the federal government, okay, I'll suffer through. We need to continue doing that. I want to spend some time talking about the things that look back a little bit at those crazy Democrats. I mean, they have basically shut down the government, and I don't think it's going to land well for them. I think everybody's pointing fingers. It's their fault. It's their fault. But it seems to me, I think most people are looking at this and they say, well, it's the Democrats who are, dragging us down here, causing this whole problem. Because, elections have consequences, and they're trying to claw back some of the money they lost in the big, beautiful bill. But you know what? They are a mess. They have no real leadership. That's why AOC and Bernie Sanders have become the voice of the party. Because there's nobody on the Democrat side of the equation who has risen to the point of leadership. They're a disaster. And we keep learning more about how bad it was when Joe Biden was the president. I don't think it was a surprise. Excuse me. I don't think it was a surprise to many people who listen to this radio station that it wasn't any big secret. Joe Biden was slipping. It was very obvious on a day-to-day basis. But now that we're past that administration, we're getting a few windows into just how bad it was behind the scenes. From the Daily Wire. Hillary who? New report suggests Biden had to be reminded who top Democrats were. Former President Joe Biden had cue cards reminding him of the names of some top Democrats, some of whom even held key positions in the administration of former President Barack Obama, where, of course, Biden served as vice president. A new report published by Fox News Digital on Tuesday indicated the outlet had obtained 5 palm cards used by politicians to keep details fresh when speaking. That has been unearthed, along with a number of other documents by investigators digging into the Biden administration's use of the auto pen. Now, look, anytime you give a speech, anytime you stand before people and deliver, it's not unusual for staff to give you a background card. Key issues. Every president gets that. But when we see the level to which they went to prop this guy up when he was on the public stage, one of the cards, which was stamped with the words, "President has seen," okay, apparently they had a stamp, he saw this, was labeled Presidential Medal of Freedom recipients and included a list of names along with their respective photos and a short biographical description. They put a picture of Hillary Clinton, who was given this award, with her photo, and a note reminding that she had served in that role as part of the Obama-Biden administration. Okay, you may say, well, that's just overzealous staff. They're just making sure that everything is covered. The same card also included a photo of actor Denzel Washington and a note reminding Biden that Washington was one of the greatest actors of the 21st century. That's how much they had to prop this guy up, that he didn't know, or he had to be reminded who Hillary Clinton was and who Denzel Washington is. Another card, also stamped with the phrase, "President has seen," include a photo of Biden's longtime Senate colleague and then Senate Majority Whip, Dick Durbin, and reminded Biden of Durbin's home state, Illinois, and his role in leadership. You're the President of the United States, and you need to be reminded who the Majority Leader of the Senate is? Majority Whip? Other cards included photos and descriptions of people such as acclaimed director Francis Ford Coppola, Governor J.B. Pritzker, and several members of his family, as well as the name, this is the one this one bothers me a lot, as well as the name of an ABC journalist, along with a question that she might ask. I turn now to my colleague, Joan Jones. Joan.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about this. ABC journalist submitted a question in advance. Now, I don't know how it was when you were, when I was doing news and I was out covering stuff, and people say, "I'd like to do an interview with you," they have the right to say, "Well, what's it about?"
Yeah, sure.
And it only makes sense for you to tell them, "Well, the topic is this, and I want to know about this." There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But you don't give the specific questions in advance.
No.
This was
silly.
being done. Yeah. I mean, it tells you how cozy they were.
It's disturbing how cozy they were.
Yeah, they really were. And they were covering for him all along. I mean, if you are in that White House briefing room, and I have worked in that briefing room, I know how this works. And you're going to an event where the president is going to be speaking, and you happen to be the reporter, the pool reporter, or maybe, it's a general access thing. It's clearly okay to say, this is the topic I want to, hey, are we going to get anything on this today? That's a fair question to a press secretary. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, I'm interested in so-and-so. Nothing wrong with that. But to give the specific verbiage of the question so you can prepare your answer in advance, that's just not the way it's done. I mean, I think somebody should be fired for that over at ABC News, that is allowed.
That they allowed their reporter to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it would certainly be frowned upon in any of the circles that I ran when I was a reporter. You do not submit your questions in advance. Topics, yes. Things you want to discuss in a general sense, yeah. But the specific verbiage, no.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So this week, instead of dealing with those kinds of things, the reporters have shown up, and the press briefing room and the surrounding area is filled with mariachi music. And they're complaining about it.
Well, I like mariachi music, so I wouldn't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, they're making the case that the shutdown is all about, supporting medical benefits for people who are here illegally. That's their whole point.
Oh yeah.
They've shown a couple of flashes of stuff that just makes me laugh. I would love to be there for this. I would love to watch the reaction.
Historic.
I mean, if you've ever gone into the bowels of the press operation on Capitol, at the White House,
yeah,
both of the times that I worked there, both for WTTG when I was there on occasion, and then when I went to Fox, it's a miserable little place down.
I was shocked.
The basement.
Yeah, I was shocked at how miserable is a good word. It seemed unkempt, dirty, and just tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Very small.
Basically, when I was at Fox, we would have to put 4 people in a closet, basically.
Yes.
Back to back. It's just a little cubbyhole with computers and, and I worked with a guy who wasn't the neatest guy in the world. and it was just jammed with paper. It was just, it's an unsightly, and when you're stuck there, back to back in this, and if I'm not great in tight spaces to begin with, but when you're stuck there, you just become sort of miserable. and now you got the Trump administration sort of, gigging the reporters a little bit, giving them a hard time. And then I love the thing about the pictures of all the presidents. As you walk from the residence to the Oval Office,
yes,
there's a long corridor there, and they have pictures of all the presidents. And when they got to Joe Biden, they put up an auto pin picture. I loved it. I thought it was great.
It's just crazy. The amount of trolling that this administration is doing is insane.
Well, and then you get the leadership, the Democrat leadership coming to the Oval Office to discuss what can we get through this, and Trump has some 2028 hats for him.
Yes. Did they?
Now listen. I don't think Trump is serious about that. He's just messing with them.
Yes, but the funny thing is, Hakeem Jeffries described it as those hats just showed up at some point during the discussion. Do you believe that for one second?
I don't believe it at all.
What?
I'm late. I got to get to the traffic real quick. It's 17 past the hour. It is going to be a high of around 80 today. Right now, 58 degrees in Metro Nashville. Looking for a high this weekend. Boy, it's been lovely weekend on tap. Both days in the low 80s. Abundant sunshine. Yeah. Enjoy it. This is my favorite time of year, actually. I love October. Talking about the Biden administration, how bad it was. There was also a lot of allegations of corruptions, and you never got anywhere with it. I don't know if the Trump administration is going to go forward with something with this, but I found this is very interesting. Sorry, I had to clear my throat. FBI had 3 informants reporting Biden corruption in Ukraine, but there is no record that there was an investigation of those claims. More whistleblowers than previously known came forward alleging Biden family corruption in Ukraine, according to Just the News. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley wants to get to the bottom of why the FBI failed to fully investigate the allegations. Listen to this. The FBI had 3 separate confidential sources, 3, who reported that Biden family was engaged in corruption in Ukraine. However, FBI Director Kash Patel says there is no record that the Bureau sought to thoroughly investigate those claims. Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley and Senator Ron Johnson released 2 new, what they call FBI 1023 records. Records of reporting from the Bureau's confidential human sources that focus on allegations of Biden family corruption. These records match closely to a previous memo Grassley released in 2023 containing similar claims. Let me say this about Chuck Grassley. You look at Chuck and it's easy to say, well, he's past his prime, and he's of another era. Let me tell you, Chuck Grassley is a serious individual and a solid individual. I've always been impressed with Chuck Grassley. And when he tells you something, he's not giving you, like a lot of Democrats would, he's not giving you stuff that you'll find out later, a year or two, 10 years later, you find it wasn't true. When he tells you something, he's got it buttoned up. He doesn't make claims lightly. And he's not particularly partisan. I mean, he's a Republican and he's a conservative, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't just, automatically, come down against everything that the other side does. He's a thoughtful individual, but when he tells you something, you can go to the bank on it. That's always been my experience with Chuck Grassley. So he got it right a long time ago. And now we find that we have all of this stuff going on with these informants, and nobody had not the least bit of interest in investigating the matter. Those guys. Kamala Harris, as long as we're talking about Democrats, she's out there with a new book right now, doing a lot of talking about this, that, and the other. Vice President Kamala Harris disclosed in her new memoir that she sought guidance from Bill and Hillary Clinton in choosing a running mate. Well, there you go. That's everything you need to know. Very few people have ever made this decision. I called Hillary and Bill because they knew what it was like and gave me candid and confidential advice. And Bill told her, one of your strengths is that you bring a joyful energy to that campaign. You have to choose someone who won't work against that. I tell you, as you talk about, we're looking back at Biden and we're finding out all this stuff about Biden. We look at Kamala Harris. We're learning more in this book. It reveals how vapid she was. Vapid, that's a great word to describe her. She's all hat and no cattle, as we used to say in Texas. There is one Democrat who's doing pretty well, though, with his constituency. And you may be surprised to find out who it is. I'll tell you in a moment. 22 past the hour.
The latest on the attack at synagogues in the United Kingdom. We've got what's happening on the ground there today in Manchester. It's coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Joan Jones will have the news coming up in just a bit. I'm Brian Wilson filling in for Dan Mandis. You're listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. We're talking a little bit about Democrats and where they are. There's one Democrat who I have been very pleased with. I mean, really, honestly, when you look at this, there's a poll out right now that suggests, however, that John Fetterman of Pennsylvania is not doing well with Democrats in his state. So here's where it is right now. You ready? 54% of Democrats in the crucial battleground state of Pennsylvania disapproved of the job that Fetterman is doing. You know, I look at him and I say, well, here's a guy who's willing to look at facts and not just, have this sort of reflex action against what the Trump administration is trying to do. Doesn't like the use of the Nazi fascist line, which everybody in the Democrats are doing to describe Republicans. However, listen to this. The Keystone State Republicans are giving their Democrat senator a thumbs up. 62% of Republicans questioned in the poll said they approved of the job that Fetterman is doing, just 21% disapproving. So if you got, you got maybe a third of the support of the Democrats, 62% of the Republicans, independents pretty much split. He's going to be all right. But is he going to become a Republican? He was asked about that by Maria Bartiromo. He said, nope, he's not going to do it. But he doesn't agree with Democrats who slammed Trump and his supporters as Nazis or fascists. Time for the news with Joan Jones at 6:30.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Got a warning for drivers here on 65 southbound lanes in Talbot's Corner. It's a crash. It's off to the right side, right before I-24. In the news in the UK, police still standing guard outside synagogues after the car ramming and stabbing attack that left 2 people dead and 6 others injured yesterday.
Authorities stepping up security at Jewish institutions across the UK. And back in the US, the NYPD saying it's closely monitoring this deadly attack. Armed officers standing guard at synagogues, authorities on high alert as this investigation ramps up.
Police are now saying that the attacker was a 35-year-old named, and you can't make this up, his name was Jihad al-Shami, a British citizen who was born in Syria. He was shot to death by police. Hey, if you're keeping track, the tally of arrests in Memphis as the president's crime crackdown there continues now stands at 93. And so far, the opinion of whether a federal presence is needed there remains mixed.
We shouldn't have no National Guard coming here. What they're telling me, they can't control the crime. The police can't control the crime here.
I love the idea of the federal government supporting local and state government when local and state government have either not been able to control the violence or have chosen not to control the violence.
Attorney General Pam Bondi saying a Tren de Aragua terrorist was among those arrested in Memphis yesterday. Got a warning for parents as Halloween approaches. West Palm Beach police in Florida announcing the seizure of brightly colored fentanyl balls. They're disguised to look just like gumballs. They discovered the candy lookalikes during a traffic stop this week. Detectives saying traffickers are intentionally making fentanyl in candy-like forms to attract children and young adults in an effort to drive addiction. Now, to see what these drug balls look like, you can go check out the photo I just posted on my X account. Find me there at Joan Jones WTN. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Yeah, they're still working it on 65 southbound right before the I-24 exit for downtown. You got a crash, and it's in the right shoulder. The right shoulder there blocked off. Antioch, it's eastbound 24. That's a problem this morning at Hickory Hollow Parkway. A stalled-out semi-truck and 2 right lanes are blocked off by it. Also, 40 westbound in Southside just before Elm Hill Pike overpass. Watch for a crash there. It's in the right shoulder. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 37 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Dan Mandis. You're listening to Nashville's Morning News on this third day of October. That's right. A lot of stuff going on with regard to immigration and the attempts that we're having to crack down on the cartels. Sort of related. Here we go. Let's start out with what we have locally. Judge denies Kilmar Abrego Garcia's motion to reopen his immigration case. Immigration judge denied a motion to reopen Kilmar Abrego Garcia's immigration case on Wednesday, writes Fox 17. They filed an emergency motion in August, arguing that since he was deported to El Salvador and brought back to the U.S., he is now eligible for asylum because his last entry in the United States was in last year. But in a copy of a decision obtained by ABC News, Regional Deputy Chief Immigration Judge Philip Taylor said the motion was quote-unquote untimely because the motion was filed almost 6 years after his initial immigration proceedings. So he's not going to be returned to the general population, and he looks like he's going to be deported.
There's some action on that case yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the lawyers for the Department of Justice are saying, hey, we're not, during the shutdown, we're not allowed to work, not even, not even if it's voluntary. So they are asking the judge in the case to, they filed a motion requesting a stay, and so that everything stays as it is with him in detention and waiting for the case to resume. But his lawyers are saying that because of that, he should be placed on home detention. Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's no decision on that as of this morning. There is an October 6th evidentiary hearing that will go on, hopefully, if things pick up again in the federal government. So there's a little bit more back and forth on this case today.
All right. Thanks. Appreciate the update. ICE and Border Patrol arrest 800 illegal immigrants during a Chicago blitz. Well, they're getting after it. By the way, did you hear this story yesterday about how the governor of Oklahoma set up a roadblock and stopped and checked every truck that entered in the state, came in, any semi-truck that came into the state of Oklahoma was stopped, and they were queried, and they ended up arresting, I forget, hundreds of people who turned out to be illegal aliens who were driving these big rig trucks down the highway. Certainly did not have any, they did not have any legitimate way to be here, and they're driving trucks on our highway. I thought that was interesting. I mean, if you run a test like that, sort of unannounced, and you get that many people, what does that mean about the number of people who are driving these big rigs up and down our highways across the country, who should not be here, who may be, national security or criminal threats? They're out there on the roadways. I'm telling you, it's surprising what they found in that little sort of snap law enforcement effort. But getting back to Chicago, 800 illegal immigrants arrested during a blitz there. From the Washington Examiner, the Trump administration will not allow violent criminals or repeat offenders to terrorize neighborhoods or victimize our children and innocent Americans. We will not allow sanctuary politicians or violent rioters to stop us from enforcing the law and arresting pedophiles, murderers, gang members, rapists, and domestic abusers from American communities. Among the 800 people arrested in 3.5 weeks are gang members and criminals convicted by a jury of their peers of statutory rape, fraud, aggravated criminal sexual assault, domestic violence, and other serious offenses. ICE Operation Midway Blitz has been underway now, and 800 people arrested. Last week, Border Patrol sent an unspecified number of agents to Chicago and Portland due to violence outside of ICE facilities. We really are sort of having a major battle in some of our major cities across the country. I mean, here the Trump administration is stepping into Chicago because crime is running rampant, trying to bring it under control, does the same thing in Portland, doing the same thing in Memphis. There will be other cities that will get this kind of support. He's trying to do something to make the streets safer, and Democrats are in the unusual position of being against that. Big victory yesterday for ICE, though. Apple removed ICE tracking apps from its online stores. Apple confirmed Thursday, according to Just the News, that it has removed multiple immigration and customs enforcement tracking apps from its app store over concern about the safety of ICE agents amid an increase in violent attacks on ICE officers. The removal comes shortly after the suspect in a shooting at a Dallas ICE facility last month researched the app before the September 24th shooting. The suspect, who allegedly intended to target ICE agents, killed 2 detainees. So when they saw that, Apple said, well, we got to take that down, and I'm glad they did. Excuse me. Attorney General Pam Bondi said the Justice Department raised the concern to Apple earlier Thursday and asked the company to remove the ICE Block app, which uses crowdsourcing to report ICE movements. We reached out to Apple, and they helped us out, said Bondi. ICE Block is designed to put agents at risk just for doing their jobs, and violence against law enforcement is an intolerable red line that cannot be crossed. I'm pretty pumped about this. The one thing that I always wanted to see our government do was crack down on the cartels. The way things work in the world today is that if the United States determines, let's say that somebody in Yemen is a national security threat, they will take action to get rid of that threat. And that may mean an attack, that may mean missiles being fired, that may be the military involvement. We look at somebody and say, you're a threat to our national security, therefore we have the authority to do what we need to do to protect our best interest, and we take out people all over the world from time to time, not all the time, but occasionally. We will take out terrorists who mean to do us harm. Well, there's nobody who means to do the American people harm greater than the cartels. Why are they not a national security threat? I've always wondered this. Now, we're getting after it. Trump has determined, according to NBC News, the U.S. is in an armed conflict with cartels, and they have told Congress as much. Listen to this. In recent weeks, the U.S. military struck at least 3 boats from Venezuela, allegedly carrying narco-traffickers and drugs. We've seen that. They're cracking down on them as if they are enemy combatants, which they are. Trump administration informed Congress in a confidential notice this week that President Donald Trump has determined that the United States is in an armed conflict with drug cartels and that members of the organizations can be targeted as unlawful combatants. Yes, finally, somebody getting serious about this mess. In response, based on the cumulative effects of these hostile acts against the citizens and interests of the United States and friendly foreign nations, the president determined the United States is in a non-international armed conflict with these designated terrorist organizations, officially saying to Congress, that's consistent with the War Powers Act, by the way. Have we declared war on the cartels? I hope that we have. Not just lip service. I mean, seriously, dismantle them. The Mexicans will not do it. We cannot count on our partners to the south to do this. The government of Mexico is so corrupt. Other countries, Venezuela. So why don't we consider the cartels to be narco-terrorists and a national security threat? Well, apparently that's now what we're doing. And by giving this information to Congress, I think it's consistent with the War Powers Act. Presidents are not required to follow the War Powers Act, but because many of them have said, well, we don't know that it's constitutional. It's never been checked. It's never been challenged in a court of law. So that remains sort of an open question. Is it constitutional or is it not? But one way or the other, the presidents have always said, I'm informing you consistent with the requirements of the War Powers Act, but not because they believe the War Powers Act is valid. All right, we got to go to traffic right quick. 47 minutes past the hour. We're looking for a really great weekend this weekend. Temperatures in the 80s. Nice day on tap today. A lot of sunshine. So enjoy this great. I love the fall. Cool in the morning. Gets warm, but not overly warm in the afternoons. An abundant sunshine. Oh, this is the best time of year, isn't it? All right. We're talking about the situation with the military. Meanwhile, listen to this. Venezuela is whining about what we're doing. Venezuela on Thursday said it had detected 5 U.S. fighter jets flying near its Caribbean coast. Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino described the incident as, quote, a provocation by the United States that posed a threat to national security. Well, we're not going to invade Venezuela, I don't think. We're just sitting off there, off the coast, waiting for the narco-terrorists to make their runs into the United States. They are combat aircraft that U.S. imperialism, they say, has dared to approach the Venezuelan coast. This was broadcast on state TV. U.S. F-35 fighter jets flying at a speed of 400 knots and an altitude of 35,000 feet were detected by the air defense system in Venezuela. But it's within... they're not encroaching. They're well outside territorial waters. I don't see anything wrong with it. But the Venezuelans don't care for it very much, that's for sure. Coming up in just a moment, well, let's just go to this now. One of the things that's going on right now with all of the tariffs, I'm in favor of the tariffs. We're putting money in the bank. It is long overdue. Been completely supportive of the tariffs, but I know that there are, and the Trump administration acknowledges that there are times where the tariffs will impact one company here or there, or one group of business operators. And that has happened to farmers. Farmers are taking a hit, and it will be better in time, but there is a window before that all kicks in. And so some farmers, ranchers, really struggling right now. Farmers are harvesting one of the largest crops in history while China holds off on buying U.S. soybeans. President Trump is considering providing $10 billion or more in aid to U.S. farmers as the agriculture sector warns of economic fallout from his far-reaching tariffs, according to people familiar with the discussions. They're weighing using tariff revenue, the money that they have taken in from China and India and all of the other countries that are doing business now paying tariff, take that money and give some of it, about $10 billion, to farmers to tide them over until it kicks in for them. It will kick in for them, but there is a window there where it will be rough. Trump said earlier this week he plans to push Chinese leader Xi Jinping to buy U.S. soybeans and help struggling American farmers. The two leaders are scheduled to meet on the sidelines of a summit in South Korea in the coming weeks. A deal with China to buy soybeans, and it could change Trump's calculations about providing aid to farmers. If the Chinese decide, well, we can buy a bunch of soybeans from America, then there may not be the need to prop up some of these farmers, but they're really struggling right now. And it looks like the Trump administration at least recognizes that. Going to try to do something about it. 52 minutes now past the hour.
Coming up here, Apple's App Store is missing one of its most controversial apps this morning. Also, another big move from Cracker Barrel after its disastrous rebrand. We've got those stories coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
So I was watching Fox News during the commercial break, and that nice Steve Ducey is in Nashville.
Yeah, again.
Interviewing our governor. Bill Lee at the brand new Museum of Christian and Gospel Music.
Love that.
Isn't that cool?
It is.
I love that we have a museum like that. We have some great musical museums.
Yeah.
I mean, we got, of course, the Country Music Hall of Fame and all of that, and and we got the what do they call it? The Musicians Hall of Fame, which I think, if you've never been to the Musicians Hall of Fame, to me that's pretty cool. I mean, it is amazing to walk through that place. You'll see, if you love music and like I do, guitars and that kind of stuff, you're going to see stuff you just won't believe.
There's so much I have to go see.
Yeah. And then now we have this Museum of Christian and Gospel Music. We have an African American Music Museum. I mean, this is great. We are Music City. So what else? You got to do that. So where was I? I was talking about the government and everything that's going on, and the crackdown on these cartels. This is the fundamental difference, I think, between what Trump is trying to do and what the Democrats now stand for. And we've got them exactly where we want them. I mean, I can't believe they're taking this position. On the issue of crime, which is the number one thing that people want from their government, we, Republicans, conservatives, are taking the right actions. We're cracking down on the cartels. We're cracking down on illegal immigration. We are supporting communities like Memphis, like Chicago, Portland, going in and trying to do what we can to make the situation better. We are the party of law and order and against crime. And remarkably, the Democrats are the party that supports criminals more than they support the people who are victims of criminal activity. It is the right position to have. It is a winning position, and it will bode well for us, I think, in the midterm elections. Time for the news now with Joan Jones at 7 o'clock.
Good morning, 7 o'clock. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. This marks day 3 of a government shutdown, and there is no sign that Republicans and Democrats feuding over the passing of a budget resolution will be solved today. Now, House Speaker Mike Johnson, saying he's not talking with Democratic leaders because, quote, he has nothing to negotiate. It's a claim that Democrats reject. ABC's John Fernandez on the Senate side of things.
The Senate returns to session later today, but Majority Leader John Thune says if Democrats don't fund the government by tonight, lawmakers will be sent home for the weekend, stretching the shutdown longer.
Yesterday, the White House moved to pause or cancel billions in funding for projects in blue states, ramping up pressure on Democrats. Apple has dropped the widely used tracking tool called Ice Block from its App Store. It came after the DOJ pressured Apple, saying that it puts law enforcement officers at risk, citing that deadly shooting at an ICE facility field office in Dallas last week. In Nashville, police are warning they're working leads make that to find suspects from a shootout near Case Homes. Residents talking to Channel 4.
I was playing video games on my computer, and I heard the gunshots behind me, basically, because my window's slightly behind me. And I turned, and I was like, what was that? And started trying to peek out, see if I saw anybody running or anything.
Yeah, the shootout was between a group of masked people and others. A 19-year-old with the masked gunman. He was killed. 2 innocent bystanders, a 23-year-old man driving a car and a 55-year-old man were injured. Market numbers brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Cracker Barrel making a big move after its failed rebrand that spurred a nationwide outcry. The restaurant chain says it's ending its partnership with Profit. That's the consulting firm behind the rebrand. Fox Business also reporting that in 2020, Profit CEO Michael Dunn pledged $4 million for Cracker Barrel's DEI initiatives. The money, he said, would help bring in Black team members across every level of the firm and hire a DEI recruiter. He also pledged $4 million in pro bono work for social justice organizations. Cracker Barrel has not, however, to date fired its CEO, and the company's stock remains at a 3-month low. If it wasn't for the government shutdown, we would have been expecting some economic data out today.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics says all collection, processing, and dissemination of economic data is on hold during the shutdown. So basically, we're not going to be getting new economic reports until the shutdown ends, and then typically it'll restart after a couple of business days after that. But it comes at this moment of a lot of scrutiny in the job market right now. Last month, just 22,000 jobs added to the workforce. Just for context, we were averaging more than 100,000 jobs every month at the start of the year.
ABC's Elizabeth Schultze there. The Dow futures are plus 89. NASDAQ futures up 43. We've got S&P futures gaining 11. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Antioch on the eastbound side of 24, you still have a stalled out semi truck and it's stop and go from Haywood Lane up to Hickory Hollow Parkway because of it. Talbot's Corner 65 South, you've got a crash in the right shoulder at the I-24 downtown exit, and in Goodlettsville, Long Hollow Pike at Cartwright Street. That's a crash as well. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.